Hey guys, welcome back to another video here on the channel. This week Volvo sent me the 2024 XC60 Recharge, or the plug-in hybrid version of the XC60, to test and review for you guys. Now I have to say this vehicle in particular has absolutely blown me away and impressed me in just how well-rounded and refined this vehicle feels. Everything from the plug-in hybrid powertrain to the interior to the sound system, the ride quality, the exterior appearance absolutely looks fantastic. This vehicle as a whole just feels very complete, well-rounded, and a very luxurious package that one would expect when paying the premium price tag that this vehicle does come in at. So as a whole, I would highly recommend checking out some of the additional content I have here coming or already posted here on the channel for this particular vehicle, including an EV-only range test, which offered some interesting and unexpected results, if you will. So make sure you guys check that video out after this one. But as usual, over my week with this vehicle, I do have things that I like and dislike that are both on the positive and negative side of things that I want to discuss here in this video. So without further ado, let's run through all of the things that I've liked and disliked here with the XC60 Recharge here in this video. So my first like here with the XC60 has to do with its exterior appearance. Now there's a few reasons why I say this on this vehicle in particular. Now, number one, this Bright Dusk exterior paint color is fantastic. It has just a hint of gold to it, but is mainly a silver appearance, especially here in direct sunlight. Has a ton of metallic flake, and overall the exterior color looks fantastic. Now, in addition to this, there's two other things that I think make this particular spec stand out. This is kind of the dark appearance package on the outside, so it has the gloss black trim for the B, C pillars, the mirror caps, the front grille design, and then this one is also optioned with the 22-inch alloy wheels, which also comes with the paint match body cladding on the exterior. So it gives it a slightly widened stance when you do spec those 22-inch alloy wheels. And then on top of that, you throw the air suspension that this one has in the parking mode, or its lowest suspension setting, and this thing just absolutely looks fantastic. For a compact luxury SUV like this one, this appearance and overall styling is just phenomenal. I know it's not brand new to the market. It's been out for several years here in its refreshed version. But as a whole, I think this spec in particular, with this exterior paint color, the 22-inch alloy wheels, which comes with the body cladding, the gloss black accents, and of course the air suspension, give this vehicle an appearance that really you don't find on many luxury vehicles like this one. Now my second like here with the XC60 has to do with that adaptive air suspension that this one is optioned with. Now I say this for a couple of reasons. Now number one, it does have adaptive or variable ride height depending on the drive mode that you do select. So on the infotainment system, depending on which drive mode you select, there is going to be a different suspension setting for each drive mode. So you have the standard hybrid drive mode, which kind of gives you your standard everyday driving ride height, as well as the suspension tuning. You have the sport mode, which lowers it just a little bit, as well as stiffens it up for a little bit of additional handling and performance. Then of course you have the pure mode, which I think raises the front just a little bit for the all the output coming out of the electric motor at the back end. Then you have the off-road drive mode, which of course raises it up to its highest driving level, which gives you several inches of additional ground clearance, whether you actually are taking it off-road, just need a little bit of additional clearance for maybe a curb or in the snow, for example. That is certainly going to be the best drive mode for that. And then of course you do have the constant all-wheel drive, which will split power between the front and rear axles at all times. So I think the adaptive suspension for the ride height reasons is one aspect or benefit that I do like. But the second one is going to be the the ride quality that it does give you. It offers an extremely smooth driving experience. Now you combine that with those 22-inch alloy wheels and the 35-inch or series tire, I should say, excuse me. And this vehicle offers a ride quality that you would assume that it has, say a 20-inch or even a smaller wheel on it, because it is so soft, so smooth, does a great job of isolating you from a lot of the broken imperfections in the pavement that we have here in the Midwest. So I would say do not hesitate to get the air suspension on your XC60 or your Volvo in general. Now my third like with this vehicle has to do with the rear visibility. Now rear visibility in this vehicle is extremely good, especially when combined with the fact that from the infotainment system you can fold down the second row headrests. Now this vehicle does have an optional digital rear camera mirror that you can get to obviously give you a totally different perspective if you say are hauling a lot of items or just like digital rear camera mirrors to look out of here at the front of the vehicle. You can get that as an additional charge. But I have to say, with the second row headrest folded down, the actual glass space or visibility that you have out the back is extremely impressive, and something that I immediately picked up on as being a hatchback owner myself is that I like having a larger piece of glass to look out of the back of the vehicle. And I think that is something that is, does extremely well here in the XC60. Now, in terms of overall visibility, it's going to be good as well. You have door mounted mirrors, which give you more than adequate visibility out the sides of the vehicle. The front hood slopes down just enough so it doesn't get in the way of, forward visibility. And of course, the B pillars really aren't that big of a deal either. And then looking over your right shoulder, you have that extremely large heated side glass in the cargo area. So you don't have snow and ice buildup, as it will melt off with the heating elements inside of it. So, overall visibility inside of the XC60 is great, but the rear visibility in particular, both out of the back as well as the sides, is certainly going to be a standout feature. Now moving on to my fourth like, that is going to have to be the Bowers & Wilkins surround sound system inside of this vehicle. Now this one, being an ultimate trim level, comes with the upgraded but not the optional Harman Kardon premium audio system, which gives you, I believe, 14 speakers inside the cabin. I believe it's rated at 600 watts of amplified power to all of those speakers. And again, I haven't had experience with that particular sound system, but I'm sure for a standard sound system on this highest trim level, it's going to sound pretty good. But this particular car is optioned with the Bowers & Wilkins 17 speaker surround sound system, which offers over 1,400 watts of output. And I have to say, it sounds absolutely phenomenal. For an audiophile or anybody interested in listening to music at higher volumes or just in higher quality, this sound system is going to give you the premium sound that you are, obviously going to be looking for. In terms of, all of the EQ settings that you can tweak here on the infotainment system and the actual sound you get coming from the speaker system, I think this is just, an option that you really have to consider if you are truly into audio inside of vehicles, because that is often something I find myself, complaining about or critiquing from other manufacturers, is the fact that their premium systems really don't sound all that good in comparison to other manufacturers. So this is certainly going to be a highlight of this vehicle, above and beyond what the average person obviously probably needs inside of a vehicle. But that is something that I think Volvo does a very good job at, is offering a truly premium sound system inside the vehicle that can be tweaked via the EQ system settings and some of the other surround sound settings. It even has a dedicated subwoofer adjustment outside of bass, which you don't often see inside of vehicles. So love the Bowers & Wilkins sound system. I would highly recommend opting it if you are truly into music and enjoy listening to it. Now my fifth like with the XC60 is going to combine a few aspects all in one. Number one is going to be the quiet cabin inside of the vehicle, the overall comfort, and the material usage throughout the interior space. Now, this one, being an ultimate trim level, obviously has a few more upgrades from that of the standard XC60 Recharge. But as a whole, the ride quality with the adaptive air suspension, the interior materials, and the lack of noise or the amount of isolation that they've been able to get inside of the cabin of this vehicle is just phenomenal. It is extremely comfortable. It's calming. It's pleasing to drive on a daily basis. Like I said, even with the 22-inch alloy wheels, the air suspension does a fantastic job of isolating the driver or all occupants inside the vehicle from that of the outside world. Then you start to look around the cabin and see, these leather materials with the accent stitching across the dashboard. You have the, wood trim across the, upper glove box. You have the crystal shift knob, which comes automatically on the ultimate trim level, which is illuminated at night, which again gives you a more premium ambiance in the interior. And then all of these metal touches for the grills over the Bowers & Wilkins stereo system. And then this one featuring the wool blend cloth seating surfaces. But as a whole, the ride quality, the interior noise levels, the quiet cabin, everything is just very good. top notch inside this vehicle, and I think that really does stand out even within the luxury segment of vehicle that Volvo competes in. Now, my sixth and final like with the XC60 has to do with its interior ergonomics and physical controls. Now, I say this because the Volvo interior is fairly minimalistic in design. You have all of your usual, hard touch physical buttons that one would expect in a vehicle like this for, say, your power liftgate, your memory driver and passenger seats. You have your window controls, automatic power folding mirrors, and then of course you have all of your usual stocks, your digital cluster, which in and of itself is fairly minimalistic, but you can put the Google Maps up there as well once you do activate it in the infotainment system. And then coming over here to the center console area, you do have the touchscreen, which does have all of your, drive mode selection, your vehicle settings, your heated and or ventilated seats, if equipped on your vehicle, will all be found here in the center stack. And then below that, you do have your audio, volume knob, seek track, your defrost functionalities, and of course in the center console you have your shift knob, engine, stop start button, electronic parking brake, and that pretty much does it for the interior. And I just like that all the buttons that one would expect is going to be, a physical button here on the steering wheel. Despite them being gloss black, it is a physical button, non-touch type, which I really do appreciate. And then Volvo went to, even the thought of just the overall design of the interior is, where I have my seat set, I can pretty much touch the touchscreen. It's just at the end of my reach, but I don't really have to reach super far forward and everything like that to get uncomfortable to use the buttons that I want on a daily basis. And then say you just want to adjust the volume knob. Well, if your hand's resting here on the shifter, you simply got to reach up, and within a hand's reach, you can turn the volume up and down, which, is actually something that I really enjoyed. It's not a totally separate location up here, to the left of the screen or anything. It's down low. You don't even have to take your arm off the armrest. You can simply reach forward, turn the volume up and down, or seek tracks, which you can also do, of course, here from the steering wheel. Everything just feels, purposeful and well laid out. Now, I will say the one aspect I kind of disagree with this fact is going to be the power sunroof controls. Now, when you do look at the power sunroof, it is going to be a touch type control, which I personally do not like, but after you figure out how it does work, for the most part, it works as intended. So this is the sunroof control right here. If you want to open the shade, you press the middle of that, or no, if you want to vent it, you press the middle of that. If you just want to open the shade, you kind of got to slide your finger about halfway, and that will go ahead and retract the power shade, as you can see, towards the back of the vehicle. Now, if you want to open the entire sunroof, you swipe the entire way of the switch, and it will go ahead and open the power sunroof just like that. So I think this is going to be the worst ergonomically or physical control in the entire interior. But outside of that, I think Volvo did a fantastic job just overall designing the interior space, using the materials that one would expect in a luxury vehicle, and just making it feel very calm and relaxing. Now, one other quick like I wanted to mention here in this video that I kind of just totally spaced and forgot to add when I was filming this video originally was the powertrain as well as the electric motor setup here in the XC60 Recharge. Now, as I mentioned in some of my other videos on this vehicle, it uses a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder with an 8-speed automatic transmission at the front axle, and at the rear of the vehicle it uses an electric motor that powers the rear wheels and of course that high voltage battery pack, which has about 14.9 kilowatt hours usable and 18.8 kilowatt hours of gross capacity. Now, combined, this pushes out 443 horsepower, 523 pound-feet of torque, and I think the overall reason I like it outside of the power figures of this vehicle is the fact that it's basically one of the smoothest hybrid vehicles I've ever experienced and driven, given that the two different powertrains are completely separate and only controlled via communication between the two. There's no mechanical linkage that connects the two. So when you're using the electric motor, the engine's pretty much off, or they're in unison and you're using both under performance acceleration, and it just works extremely well. It's extremely smooth. It's well refined, it's well programmed. There was very little mechanical shifting that I was feeling at the front of the vehicle via that 8-speed automatic. So I think, this is a very positive aspect of the T8 powertrain from Volvo, at least in their newer iterations of it, as the 2-liter turbo was formerly supercharged and turbocharged in the older versions, 2022 and prior. But now they're only turbocharged, use an 8-speed automatic, and that more powerful electric motor out back, I think just makes the overall experience extremely smooth, well refined, and has plenty of power for the everyday commute. So that's gonna do it here for all my likes with the XC60. Now let's move into my list of dislikes, or hopefully things that they can improve over time with this platform of vehicle. Now my first dislike here inside of this vehicle has to do with the Google Automotive Android OS, which does not support Android Auto. Now this infotainment system does support Apple CarPlay, which is great for those that actually like to use, the Apple ecosystem and, have good integration inside their vehicle. But unfortunately, the Google Automotive OS does not support Android Auto on this particular head unit. Now you can, of course, use the Play Store, download additional apps, and use a lot of the same functionality, including the built-in Google Map integration here inside this vehicle without Android Auto. But I have to say, having gotten used to Android Auto and just automatically either wirelessly connecting your phone or, using a USB cable to do it, I would like to see Android Auto integration inside of Volvo's vehicles. Now, as a whole, the infotainment system's very quick to respond. It has a good hardware or chipset behind it. Processing speeds are very good. It's actually a system that boots up before you actually start the vehicle. So as soon as you pretty much walk up and have proximity access to the vehicle, start opening the door, it automatically starts to boot up. So by the time you actually turn the vehicle on with the physical button, the system is pretty much, for the most part, ready to go, and I really do like that about their programming of the system. Now, my second dislike with this vehicle has to do with the drive mode selection that I'm mentioning is tied to the air suspension and some of the other vehicle performance aspects inside the cabin. So to gain access to the drive modes, you go up here to the driving, which is nice. It's first at the top and immediately pulls up all of your different drive modes and different plug-in hybrid options that you can change within this vehicle. Now, my biggest nitpick about it is, number one, it does not have a custom drive mode setting where you can kind of tailor the air suspension, the ride height, some of the other, steering feel, stuff like that outside of these dedicated drive modes. Although you can turn on steering feel firm via that right there, which will kind of stiffen up the actual, power assist feel that you get inside the vehicle. But that's the only real thing you can adjust outside of the air suspension, outside of these dedicated drive modes. So I would like to see a custom drive mode added so you can change, the air suspension feel and the ride height, as well as some of the other, power output settings, if you will, because I think that would be very beneficial and user customizable. Now, my third dislike with this vehicle actually has to do with the metallic sunroof trim piece found on the retractable power shade. Now, I get this is a very minor complaint, but it's one that I had to actually get used to for several days before it kind of stopped bothering me, because it kind of matches the color of the sky, at least on a cloudy day. It always made me feel in my peripheral vision that the shade was open by an inch or two. Now, if you own an XC60 or are familiar with this vehicle, you very well might know exactly what I'm talking about. And again, that's a very small item. It may not bother you at all. It may be, something that bothers you on, a couple day basis before you actually get used to it, kind of like I did, or it might be something bigger than that for you, which you also could probably put a piece of vinyl on it as well if you really wanted to change it up and make it black like that of the actual headliner color. But that's just something that, kind of stood out to me as I'm driving along on these cloudy days. You would always see this little bit of shiny metallic silver trim up here on the headliner, which in and by itself is all black except for that trim piece. So again, I'm not sure why Volvo chose to do that with the colors and materials inside the cabin, but easy fix for most people, and even Volvo themselves, easy fix by making it a different color. But it just always reminded me that the shade was partially open, despite the fact that it was fully closed. Now, my fourth dislike in the XC60 is the fact that there is no export power or even a 120 volt outlet inside of the cabin of this vehicle. Now this vehicle, as we know, is a plug-in hybrid. It has an 18.8 kilowatt hour battery pack. 15-ish kilowatt hours are going to be usable. But the fact that this vehicle has no export power either via the charge port or inside of the vehicle is quite an interesting choice by Volvo. Given this vehicle has a sizable battery pack and, a lot of other larger hybrids out there, even with, batteries not as big as this one, have, available 120 volt outlets inside the cabin with, 2,000 watts of export power. I think that'd be an awesome feature to see inside this vehicle. And again, I'm not exactly sure why Volvo didn't do it. So your available output in terms of, power is, basically USB charging or 12 volt outlets limited to 120 volts inside of this vehicle. So I think that would enhance the overall product, value aspect even further, is allowing for, 1, 2, 3 kilowatts of export power from the high voltage battery pack when it allows, so when it is charged up to an appropriate state of charge. Now, of course, that's not going to work all the time if the high voltage system is low in charge, but even if you could give reduced power at that point, it would be awesome to see. And I think that is just somewhat of a miss within the Volvo product planning or engineering side of things for this exact platform. But I'm sure Volvo has done some research on it, is aware of it, and maybe that will be offered in a future product iteration with their Recharge plug-in hybrid vehicles and or fully electric offerings. But I think with this vehicle as it sits for the price point, it would be nice to have a little bit of additional export power capability. Now, my next dislike with the XC60 Recharge has to do with its onboard level 2 charging performance. Now, this vehicle, being a plug-in hybrid and having a fairly large plug-in hybrid battery in specific, does take quite a long time to charge. Of course, that is going to be the case for most vehicles out there, especially when using level 1 120 volt output. But this vehicle, even on level 2 charging or 240 volt charging, only has a 3.6 kilowatt onboard charger, single phase, and I believe in other markets globally you can get a double phase or dual phase onboard charger, which bumps it up over 6 kilowatts, which is much more tolerable and much more competitive with that of other vehicles. But this vehicle, as sits, I've only been able to get to charge up to about 3.3, maybe 3.4 kilowatts on a level 2 charger, which to me is, okay or adequate if you have at-home level 2 charging and maybe even at a workplace have level 2 charging as well. But compared to some of the other plug-in hybrids offered on the market, those are offering 7.2 kilowatt onboard chargers, which can replenish the high voltage battery system much quicker, probably in half the time or less than this vehicle can right here. So going from 0 to 100% state of charge, even at 3.2, 3.3 kilowatts, is going to take 4 to 5 hours with this vehicle, just because it does have a slow level 2 onboard charger. So I think that is kind of one of the worst aspects about the plug-in hybrid powertrain that this vehicle does offer. If they simply have upgraded the onboard charger in this vehicle to 6 kilowatts or greater, I think this would make it stand out even further versus that of some of the competitors in the plug-in hybrid space. But as it sits, I think that's a little bit on the slower side. For the price point, I would like to see it upgraded and like to see a faster onboard charger, because you really do have to have at least an at-home level 2 charger to charge this up on a daily basis within a reasonable amount of time, because as we know, level 1 120 volt charging at 12 amps or so takes well over 12 hours, going from 0 to 100%. So I think that would definitely benefit the overall efficiency and use case on a daily basis of this vehicle. But as it sits, fairly slow level 2 charging, which is a little bit of a bummer. Now, my last and final, I would say, honorable mention, because it's certainly not a dislike with this vehicle, but I did want to put it out there here inside of this vehicle, and almost every video I make with the XC60 is going to be the wool blend interior option that is available at no additional charge instead of the Nappa leather that would normally be found on this vehicle, because I think these seats are not going to be for everybody, but they certainly are probably an eco-friendly option, and totally different for those that don't like leather seats in general. So these are basically wool blend. They come in one color configuration, as in here, kind of a lighter gray with white accent piping on the outside. And I want to say this is a cautionary word for anybody looking at this vehicle, is that make sure you do test drive it. Make sure you are okay with this interior if one has it that you're looking at. Because, you know, at first I thought I actually really liked these seats, but over time using it for a couple days in a row, I found that if you're wearing shorts or your bare skin is rubbing up on these seats, that it can irritate the skin just a little bit. It's not a super rough material, but it's not soft and plush either. So that's just one word of advice. And number two is, this being a press vehicle does get a little bit more wear and tear than probably the average vehicle out there, but there is going to be a little bit of discoloration here on these seats themselves. And I believe somebody did spill something on the passenger side seat, but who knows, maybe these can clean up fairly easily. But I would say from a comfort perspective, they're okay, not amazing. I would like to see the leather seats in a vehicle that I would probably own. Now with the wool seats, the cloth seats, you do lose the ventilated seat functionality as well, and you cannot option the additional massaging functionality with this material either. So it is a little bit of a downgrade in terms of a feature set, optioning the wool seats, but it's great that Volvo does at least offer these for customers who don't want the leather seats for either, you know, environmental reasons or just prefer cloth inside their vehicles, because this vehicle, as seen here, essentially is fully loaded at, you know, nearly $76,000, but does have that interior choice. So I think that is cool of Volvo for offering it. It's not a dislike, it's not a like, it's just something I wanted to mention and, you know, give you a cautionary word of advice after living with this vehicle for about a week. So I think that's pretty much gonna do it here for all my likes and dislikes with the 2024 Volvo XC60 Recharge plug-in hybrid. Now I want to give a huge thanks to Volvo for sending out this vehicle for me to test and review for you guys out over the last week. Make sure to check out additional content I've already posted and or coming on this particular vehicle. But as a whole, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, this vehicle is absolutely impressive, extremely well-rounded, extremely luxurious, and is honestly one I would easily recommend for the plug-in hybrid powertrain that it has to offer and the available EV range out of the high voltage battery system. You know, I just think as a whole, you can't really do plug-in hybrids all that much better than this particular vehicle has done it. And I do like the available options and features that you can choose, whether you want air suspension, regular suspension, you want the smaller wheels, the bigger wheels, you want the Polestar version of this vehicle that is going to be offered as well as a separate trim level. And you know, as a whole, I would probably change the interior, go for the Napa leather myself with the ventilated functionality over the cloth. And that might be about it in terms of changing what is on this exact vehicle. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Definitely helps out the channel. Let me know your thoughts on the Volvo XC60 Recharge down in the comment section below. Do you agree, disagree, believe my comments on this vehicle and overall, you know, opinion of it is correct, or is there something else you want to add that you think is worthy? If you own this particular vehicle, make sure you guys leave that feedback down in the comment section below as well, because I think that is something certainly to be said, and it's certainly going to be valuable to anybody looking and considering this vehicle, both on the new and used side of things, because these vehicles have been around for several years now. So leave all that down in the comment section below. As always, I appreciate continued support here on the channel, and as always, hope to see you guys in the next one.